Morning guys, just wanted to jump on very quickly and make a quick video. I was talking to one of my clients earlier in the week and we were discussing the messiness of life, how things can impact you and how it's really important to look after yourself first. Now, this is what this is all about, the tent of life. This is something I've written for my book that I'm gradually getting together. And it's also something I was going to share in my private community with my members, but actually I think it can have more of a positive impact if I share it with everybody. And anybody who's anybody doing anything can probably benefit from this, one way or the other. So without further ado, I'll keep it real brief and succinct the best I can. And hopefully you gain something from this. So, the tent of life. This is the tent of life. This is an old school tent that we would have had in the Boy Scouts maybe 30 years ago. Very heavy canvas, propped up by 3 main wooden poles. The tent offers resilience against the storm of life. That being chaos, stress, mess, bullshit, a tornado, the epidemic, the pandemic, inflation, deflation, the pound, the dollar, all of the things we can and can't control that do have an impact on us. That is the storm of life, an absolute mess. Life's designed to be a mess, but it's BS and it affects us. Inside the tent is the real you, the authentic you. The person you are and the person you aspire to be. The real inner you, not the corporate you, not the military you, not the police officer you, the actual you, the real you, okay? Now, the tent is held up by these 3 main wooden poles. The first one, and probably it is the most important one, is the crossbeam. That's called me. Now, me holds the tent canvas right at the top. If me snaps, fails or falters, then the whole lot comes crashing down and we get whipped away in the messiness of life, in that tornado. So the most important pole to maintain and look after is me. The second 2 poles still are significant, but not quite as much. If them falters, me and work can cope long enough to fix them again, okay? Then if the work pole snaps or falters, then them and me can cope long enough to fix work again. But only for a short while before me comes tumbling down and again we get caught off in the messiness of life. We get taken away and then we're in a big dark pit of sludge, mud and pity. It's really hard to get out of. Okay, now the good thing is that if all 3 poles are in place in their ringlets and pegged down, then that tent is stormproof. Your resilience is strong and it's a very safe, comfortable and dry place to be, okay? So the most important person, the most important pole to maintain is me. Now, me represents everything that you are, your boundaries, your beliefs, your strengths, your weaknesses, your spirit. It incorporates your self-worth, your self-beliefs, your physical and your mental health. And me is the one that your nearest and your dearest love and care for. Me is propped up by your routines, your rules, and boundaries that are unique to you. Okay, so this big one is you. This is the one we maintain first. Pole them. Them represents the people around you, starting with your nearest and dearest, be it your spouse, your children, your friends, your mother, your father, your brothers, your sisters. Them incorporates relationships with the people you hold dearly. And them incorporates the group of people that you love and cherish, enjoy being around and enjoy being responsible for. Okay? And work really just represents that, your work, your business. The duties you perform to provide an income, to allow you to do things in your life. But work must stay where it belongs, okay? That's the least important pole, and whilst it still has a major significance on your life, you can't let that become the mainstay pole of the tent, okay? If work falters, it will have an impact on your identity and on me and on them, but not quite as much as if them falters, and certainly not as much as if me falters. So the trick is to keep your tent dry, to keep your resilience at 100%, is to maintain me first. So me first, them after, work later. That's the priority for me, okay? Now, I've asked many people, what do you think of those priorities? And a lot of people will say, well, yeah, I agree with that. That's me. I always put myself first, or I put them first. Then it's me. Work always comes last. But friends, I ask you this, okay? When you finish work for the day, when you're at home with your family, how many of you are present with your family? How many of you are present with your wife and your kids? Or how many of you are checking work emails, chatting on group chats, thinking about the meeting tomorrow, thinking about the person you've got to arrest, thinking about the person you need to deal with, thinking about your boss, how you're going to appease him? If you're subconsciously doing that, then I'm afraid to say that work has become your priority and you don't even realise it, with these two falling by the wayside. Now, it's hard to get that into order and probably for that to sink in, but what you really need to be focusing on is me. Me before everything. Even me before wife and kids. Why? Think about the tent. If me's not in order, then we'll work falter. The tent collapses. So me has to come first. But that doesn't mean, and this is really important to remember, this doesn't mean that you're going out drinking beer, going out with your friends, doing what you want, and putting everything else by the wayside. That's the last thing it means. It does not mean that at all. What it means is that your mental, your physical health and your priorities must be in tip-top shape for you to weather the storm of life. So me first, them after, work later. I hope that makes sense. And I'll leave you with this one last thing. Time is so valuable. If you think of time as a currency, it's the most valuable currency we know. You can spend time so quickly, but you can't earn it back. So if that's the case, then the biggest investment you can ever make to get the best return is an investment in yourself. Spend time with yourself, put yourself first, keep yourself straight, and see how these two then fall into place. I hope that makes sense.